Hey, Todd Sanford here. I'm going to read you some Bible verses today from Leviticus chapter 15 through 17. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when any man has bodily discharge, the discharge is unclean. Whether it comes flowing from his body or is blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring about uncleanliness. Any bed the man with a discharge lies on will be unclean, and anything he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Whoever sits on anything that the man with the discharge sat on must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. If the man with the discharge spits or someone who is clean on someone who is clean, that person must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Everything that the man sits on when riding will be unclean, and whoever touches any of these things that were under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up those things must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Anyone the man with the discharge touches without rinsing his hands with water must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. A clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden article is to be rinsed with water. When a man is cleansed from his discharge, he is to count off 7 days for his ceremonial cleansing. He must wash his clothes, bathe himself with fresh water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day, he must take 2 doves and 2 pigeons and come before the Lord to the entrance of the tent of meetings and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, and one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way, he will make atonement before the Lord for the man because of his discharge. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe in his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any clothing or leather that the semen is on must be washed with water, and it will be unclean until evening. When a man lies with a woman and there is an emission of semen, both must bathe with water, and they will be unclean until evening. When a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean until evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean. Anything she sits on will be unclean. Whoever touches her bed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Whoever touches anything she sits on must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Whether it is the bed or anything else she sits on, when anyone touches it, he will be unclean till evening. If a man lies with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days, and any bed he lies on will be unclean. When a woman has discharge of blood for many days at a time other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has discharge, just as in the days of her period. Any bed she lies on with her discharge continues will be unclean, as in her bed during her monthly period, and anything she sits on will be unclean, as during this period. Whoever touches them will be unclean. He must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. When she is cleansed from her discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after she will be ceremonial clean. On the 8th day she must take 2 doves and 2 young pigeons, and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meetings. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement for her before the Lord, for the uncleanliness of her discharge. You must keep the Israelites separate from things that make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanliness for defiling my dwelling place, which is among them. These are the regulations for a man with a discharge, for anyone made unclean by emission of semen, for a woman in her monthly period, for a man or woman with a discharge, and for a man who lies with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. Chapter 16. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron who died when they approached the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron not to come wherever he chooses, into the most holy place, behind the curtain in front of the atonement cover of the ark, or else he will die, because I appear in the cloud over the atonement cover." This is how Aaron is to enter the sanctuary area, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to put on the sacred linen tunic with the linen undergarments next to his body. He is to tie the linen sash around him and put on the linen turban. These are sacrament garments, so he must bathe himself with water before he puts them on. For the Israelite community, he is to take 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron is to offer the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. Then he is to take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meetings. He is to cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it for his sin offering. But the goat chosen by a lot as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the desert as a scapegoat. Aaron shall bring the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household, and he is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. He is to take a censer full of burning coals from the altar before the Lord and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense, and take them behind the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal the atonement cover above the testimony, so that he will not die. He is to take some of the bull's blood with his finger and sprinkle it on the front of the atonement cover. Then he shall sprinkle some of it with his fingers 7 times before the atonement cover. He shall then slaughter the goat for the sin offering for the people, and take its blood behind the curtain, and do with it as he did with the bull blood. He shall sprinkle it on the atonement cover and in front of it. In this way he will make atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanliness and rebellion of the Israelites, whatever their sins have been. He is to do the same for the tent of meetings, which is among them in the midst of their uncleanliness. No one is to be in the tent of meetings from the time Aaron goes in to make atonement in the most holy place until he comes out having made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole community of Israel. Then he shall come out to the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it all on the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times to cleanse it and consecrate it from the uncleanliness of the Israelites. When Aaron is finished making atonement for the most high place, for the most holy place, the tent of meetings, and the altar, he shall bring forward the live goat. He is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the wickedness and rebellion of the Israelites, all their sins, and put them on the goat's head. He shall send the goat away into the desert in the care of a man appointed for the task. The goat will carry on itself all their sins to a solitary place, and the man shall release it into the desert. Then Aaron is to go into the tent of meetings and take off the linen garment he put on before he entered the most holy place, and he is to leave them there. He shall bathe himself with water in a holy place and put on his regular garments. Then he shall come out and sacrifice the burnt offerings for himself and the burnt offerings for the people to make atonement for himself and for the people. He shall also burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man who releases the goat as a scapegoat must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may come into the camp. The bull and the goat for the sin offerings, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make atonement, must be taken outside the camp. Their hides, flesh, and offal are all to be burned up. The man who burns them must wash his clothes, bathe himself with water, and afterwards he may come into the camp. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you must deny yourselves and not do any work, whether native-born or alien living among you, because on this day atonement will be made for you to cleanse you. Then, before the Lord, you will be clean from all of your sin. It is a Sabbath of rest, and you must deny yourself. It is a lasting ordinance. The priest who is anointed and ordained is succeeded his father as a high priest is to make atonement. He is to put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement for the most holy place, for the tent of meetings and the altar, and for the priest and all the people of the community. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. Atonement is to be made once a year for all of the sins of Israelites. And it was done as the Lord commanded Moses. Chapter 17. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites and say to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Any Israelites who sacrifice an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp or outside of it, instead of bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meetings to present it as an offering to the Lord in front of the tabernacle of the Lord, that man shall be considered guilty of bloodshed. He has shed blood and must be cut off from his people. This is so that the Israelites will bring to the Lord the sacrifices they are now making in the open fields. They must bring them to the priest, that is, to the Lord, at the entrance of the tent of meetings and sacrifice them as fellowship offerings. The priest is to sprinkle the blood against the altar of the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meetings and burn the fat as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. They must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to the goat idols, to whom they prostitute themselves. This is to be a lasting ordinance for them and for the generations to come. Say to them, any Israelite or any alien living among them who offers a burnt offering or sacrifice and does not bring it to the entrance of the tent of meetings to sacrifice it to the Lord, that man must be cut off from his people. Any Israelite or any alien living among them who eats any blood, I will set my face against that person who eats blood and will cut him off from his people. For the life of a creature is in his blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves on the altar. It is the blood that makes atonement for one's life. Therefore I say to the Israelites, none of you may eat blood, nor may an alien living among you eat blood. Any Israelite or any alien living among you who hurts any animal or bird that may be eaten must drain out the blood and cover it with earth, because the life of every creature is its blood. That is why I have said to Israelites, you must not eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is its blood. Anyone who eats it must be cut off. Anyone, whether native-born or alien, who eats anything found dead or torn by the wild animals, must wash his clothes and bathe with water. He will be ceremonially unclean till evening. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, he will be held responsible. Thank you, and God bless you.
Hello, and welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where we're on a mission to get 1 million people to read the Word of God. My name is Summer Day, and I have with me in the studio Mr. Todd Sanford.
Hello. So excited to be here.
I don't know who's more excited, me or you.
Me.
No.
You've been making fun of me off camera pretty hard, so yeah.
Don't tell my secrets just yet. It's not making fun. It's just having some fun with the family.
Folks, they're making fun of my accent, my
love
cowboy
your accent. Stop it right now.
Yeah. So accent, yeah.
You're amazing. You're amazing. I'm so grateful for you for being here. Tell everybody just a little bit about yourself. They probably figured out where you're from yet, but in case they don't know, where are you from?
San Angelo, Texas, dead center of Texas.
Born and raised Texan?
Man, born and raised right there in that area within 45 minutes of where I live right now my whole life. So, yes. Fifth, sixth generation. Well, my boys are sixth generation Texans. So, yeah, we're a long line of Texans. Proud of it.
And what'd you grow up doing?
Well, growing up, lived in a small community, about 2,000 people. So, we were real tight-knit little community. Ended up becoming a professional firefighter and paramedic, and I was doing that for 35 years, for 28 and a half as a professional. Broke my neck in the process of being a fireman. Got trapped in a burning building, and they had to dig me out. Yeah. Had a lot of crazy stuff. We're in the middle of a desert. I'm the only person in the history of San Angelo that got hauled out of a lake and had the bends and was taken to the hospital and didn't expect to live. We were diving for a body, and crazy story, crazy stuff in the fire department. Loved it, though, 28 and a half year career.
You're just throwing so many things at me at once. I can't handle. I'm like, I'm juggling.
That's my life. I've juggled my whole life. So
Firefighter.
Yeah.
35 years, you said?
35 total, 28 and a half as a professional. I was a volunteer first and then moved into that, and retired as the operations fire chief, the number 2 chief, and just loved what I did, but it was time to move on and do something different.
Now, before we move on, you mentioned about getting hurt and you had broken your neck, and I love that story. We're going to unpack that story a lot because you're one of the stories in the 52-week Bible study journal, which I'm assuming y'all have gotten your hands on. You got to get that Year of Miracles with 52 stories of miracle signs and wonders. So we'll unpack that one. That one gets unpacked a whole lot more in that interview. But I would love to hear a different story of what was your greatest rescue as a firefighter or something that stood out?
Man, I had a couple, had some as paramedics, delivered 3 babies.
Okay, yeah. That's not something that other people do at their job.
No, those were crazy. Those were crazy.
How does that work? Is it because somebody just calls the paramedics and you were the one that showed up?
Yeah, they're having a baby, and so they panic and call up paramedics. We delivered 2 at the house, and then 1 was in the back of the ambulance. Okay. That was quite adventurous.
Do they train for that?
Yeah, we do.
No way.
We do. You train for it, but you're not prepared for it. I mean,
I bet
it really.
It's not like catching a football, right? I know you were a quarterback.
No, it was slippery as no. It's
catching a football.
I mean, yeah, I had 3 kids of my own.
Yeah,
that was very controlled in the back of an ambulance going. I mean, because the driver
Oh, it was driving. It wasn't even stopped.
No,
You're delivering.
We were going,
Gosh,
and
you're
the driver's hauling it. The ambulance is going everywhere, and the baby goes, and you're just sliding everywhere, and it's crazy.
Okay, I was picturing a stopped ambulance. So no, you guys didn't even stop. The baby.
No, I'm screaming in the back, get me to the hospital because I don't want to deliver this baby. So my driver's driving real fast. But that's
anything stand out from a fire rescue?
We had one. You talk about, we're here talking about faith and stuff, and I'll say that truly there's been a bunch of rescues of me that were amazing, that firemen came in and saved me at some fires. But the one that stands out was everything fell into place one day. We had a lady that she caught her house on fire, and she tried to put it out herself, and then she ran to her bedroom and got trapped. One of the firemen found her and pulled her out, carried her, met me in the hallway. I was just coming in, handed her to me. I carried her, brought her out. Just happened to have one of my men that had been taking an ambulance to a hospital visit, brought the ambulance by, heard the call came in, and parked the ambulance. So we had all of our equipment right there. Yeah. I carried the lady out. She wasn't breathing. We laid her down. We intubated her. We started CPR. We brought her back and saved her life. Wow. I mean, so as far as life saving, that one would probably be the tops on the saving somebody's life in a fire. That was pretty cool.
Now, did you always want to be a firefighter?
I think I did. My grandparents gave me a ladder truck when I was a little kid, probably 5 years old. My uncle was a volunteer, so I really did. And that was always what I wanted to do. At 16, you could become a volunteer if your parents signed off on you. Yeah. My parents refused to sign off, said that's too dangerous. So my 17th birthday, the day I turned 17, you were considered an adult and you could sign off for yourself. Wow. And I went and joined the volunteer. So from the day I turned 17 till I retired, I was always a firefighter. And so, yeah, I wanted to do it. And then life threw some curveballs at me and really didn't have a choice. I had to pursue that. I had to quit college. We lost our home growing my home that I grew up. I was in college. My mom lost the home, had no place to live. So I quit college. I moved home. Me and her found a little tiny little FHA house, and we were living in that little tiny community. And I did that for, a year and a half, 2 years. And wasn't.
We got to pause you again. So you dropped out of college to go take care of your mom.
Well, in my mind, I did. In my mind, I went home because she had nothing and she needed me. But to be real honest, I went home and I was I'd been playing football at college. I'd finally made the team. I was a second string, strong safety, and I was living the dream I always had. And
so we mentioned you were a quarterback in high school.
I was, and just loved football more than anything back then. And so when I quit, to be real honest, I tell everybody, I went home for my mom. But the reality was when I got home, I was messed up. I was mad. I was angry at my father because he was the reason we lost our home. Mom and dad had divorced already, but he was the reason. And so I was so angry. I'd go to work every day, and then the check that I had that I should have been helping mom with went to the local bar. And that's where I spent my time. And so I always say, but
you came home with good intentions.
I did. And I made it up to her later on in life. My mom we're fixing to celebrate her 85th birthday.
I love it.
I bought her a house right next to me. She lives right next to me. Aww. We see her or talk to her just about every day. She's an amazing, amazing woman. Everything that I became in my life, I owe to that woman just for protecting me when I was younger in high school and junior high. She's always been my rock.
I love it. So you went back to take care of your mom, but you're definitely taking care of her now. She's living right next door to you. You're seeing her every day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Love it.
I want to have a son, and I want him to do the same thing for me. We're going to take a break real quick, and we will be right back after this commercial break. Stay tuned. That's awesome. No.
Are you stuck? Do you feel like you need to move forward but aren't sure how or where to start? We've got you covered. At You Can Be You, we'll be that coach, teacher, and mentor that you need. We'll help you break the bonds holding you to your past so you can move into your bright future. Visit youcanbeyou.org, click Get Help, and take the first step into your new future. Do you want to help someone break through? Join our community of changemakers and unlock endless possibilities. Become a donor, sponsor, or join us and become a mentor or coach. Let's break the bonds at youcanbeyou.org.
Hey everybody, this is Tracy. If you're going through some stuff and you need some inspiration today, I want you to check out Fireside Chat with Zondra Television right here on Zondra TV.
Hello, my friends. We are back with Todd talking about his firefighter days, his firefighter career, and then about your mom. You're such a good son. Got mom living next door to you.
I don't know. Like I said, I owe her everything. She took care of me when all those years, and it's not that I take care of her. She lives by herself. She takes care of herself. Don't get me wrong. And when we had kids growing up, we used her. She babysat, so it's not like I've done anything special for her. She carries her own water and takes care of herself. But it is nice having her there because I don't worry about her, and if I can't get her, then I just walk next door and make sure she's okay. So that's always nice. You don't have to drive across town or call somebody to check on her. So, very blessed.
I love it. Now, what made you say yes to this project?
Well, I've always had a strong faith and always believed, but I had some really rough years there.
Well, let's talk about that.
In high school.
So you were raised in the church?
I was taken to the church.
Oh, that's a good answer. Taken to the church.
And mom would go and stuff, but my dad, I got a great story about him in Promise Keepers, but I love my dad.
What's Promise Keepers?
Promise Keepers. You don't know what? Promise Keepers was a movement back in the 90s, started by the retired head football coach from, I believe it was Colorado State. Colorado State. And it was just a movement for men to go be men and learn to love better, to be better husbands. And there's a bunch of stuff out there. I read a little article in a book here the other day, and it was trashing it because it was saying it was putting women down. No, I was there. It was building men up. It was building them. I came home from that one of the conferences and told my wife, you need to take over the bills. Not because I wanted her to do more, but I wanted her to know the finances. And I started sharing things with her. So if anything ever did happen to me at the fire department, she would know what was going on. It was a
very wise. I know I've heard stories of that happening and the person doesn't know how to take care of the bills.
Yeah. And that's one of the, that's one of the whole reasons that's how we got hooked up. I'm a coach through Kingdom Builders Academy, and I'm coaching men, and I want, because the thing about men is we will give and give and give, but we don't share.
Yeah.
Because if I had a bad run, say I lost a kid at work when I was a fireman, that would devastate me. But I didn't talk to anybody about it. And I wasn't going to go home and bring it to my wife.
Yeah.
She didn't need to know the details of me losing that kid. So I'd bring it home, and it festers in you. And you have anger issues.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.